Guys, how are you? Happy Friday. We are going to do our flip lesson for teamwork and collaboration education. This is going to be more of a discussion class, and then in the afternoon part, we will actually get to do a challenge called a marshmallow challenge. So maybe you've done it before. Let's get started. So when you think of really effective teams, I was really inspired by the Summer Olympics last year. And so when you think of very great teams, it's always about collaboration and working together. And how do you achieve that in education sense? So teamwork matters more in education than even sporting teams. And the communication on a team is so important. So think about setting yourself up for a great spike or passing off the baton or, what does Salvi do as the catcher? Every single thing has to do with communication and teamwork. And that's really so important in education. So, really specifically, who is on our educational team are so many different people. So, right now, I want you to stop the video and just think, who is on our education team? Who do we report to? And what does that look like? Go ahead and pause. So hopefully you guys had a good discussion about teams in education. Yeah, of course you're going to have other teachers be a part of the education team. You're going to work together and collaborate. But the student is a part of the education team. The parent, the grandparent, their family members, the principal. But also the main thing is that when you think of education, we are funded by the state. So also part of the education team is taxpayers and community members. And since we are government funded, the government's a really big part of our education team. Modesi, we'll talk more about that here in the upcoming weeks. But really understanding that when you are an educator, you really are working with large groups of people. And so really I wanted to talk about your personal strengths on a team. Typically on a team, there's a bossy one. And so we're going to use some Muppets. There's the bossy one, the funny one that makes all the jokes, the party planner, that's the socialite going around making sure everyone's having a good time, the know-it-all, the friend to all, the person that lends their ear and is approachable, the smart tech IT person, and then the cynics that kind of draw everyone down. So really quickly, by just quickly going over this, I want you guys to talk really fast about what member you are and what your main role is. Go ahead and pause the video. So hopefully you guys had some good insight on how you function in a team. So probably for me personally, I'm probably the bossy one, but maybe also the funny one at times making jokes. But knowing yourself and how you function in a team is really important. So when you become a teacher, you can also understand their dynamics and understand where you fit in and maybe where you can excel, also maybe where you will have some weaknesses. So overall, what we would like to have happen is that you're kind of like Kermit. Kermit's calm, loyal, responsible, cheerful. He's always optimistic. Diversity doesn't scare him. So it's a good example. And he inspires the Muppets to be the best they can be. So he turns a group of misfits into a team, and they always has a goal and a plan to achieve it. Kermit is the teacher. This is the role the teacher plays in the classroom and should play in the community, and really understanding the vital role an educator has in the life of children. So right now I want you to take a test for me. So I have it on my desk. It's a 5-minute test. It shouldn't take very long. But what you're going to do, the directions say choose the item in each line that is most like you and put a 4. So 4 is most like you. Then pick the item that is next most like you and put a 3. Then a 2 and a 1, which is least like you. Do this across the page for each of the descriptors. Then at the very bottom, you're going to total it up, and the highest score is what you are. So you either can be a lion, an otter, a beaver, or a golden retriever. So go ahead and take this for 5 minutes. And so overall, this was by James Bronner and Gary Smalley. And so it identifies your personality traits. So right now, you could either be a lion, otter, beaver, or retriever. There are some mush-ups or mash-ups, but overall, these are the four main categories. And so I want you to just take a minute and really talk about what your strengths are. I have the rubric of what the strengths of each individual are, and so I want you guys to have a discussion on really what animal personality is who you are. Were you shocked? Is it accurate? Kind of what are your thoughts on that? And then understand there are mashups. So you could kind of be a combination of two, but I want you to kind of pick the one that you think you're the most like. So go and take a few minutes and talk about your personality types. So now that you know more about your personality types, I left this slide blank. We're a team of interns in Ed 2020 right now. So when working in a team of people, you need to identify the other animals on your team. So I want you to think about your Eagle Intervention classroom. What personality type would you say is your host teacher? Once you take a second, I want you to talk about it and tell the class why. So hopefully you paused right then. If not, go ahead and pause now because I didn't tell you to. Because the next thing we're going to talk about is conflict in teams, and then we're going to actually do some team building here in a second. So conflict in teams, especially in education, could be teacher versus student. That's probably the most common one because we're working with kids every single day. Teacher versus teacher. Guys, you're not always going to get along with your teammates or people in your building. And so there is going to be conflict, and you need to be able to handle that. Teacher versus principal. You may not always understand why your principal's doing something or what their intentions are, or you may just not get along. So how are you going to handle that? Teacher versus community. Coming up, we have this no tax bond increase on April 4th. The community may vote not to do the tax bond increase, and maybe it upsets you as a teacher. So there's conflict when it comes to that as well. And then really the conflict of when you're a teacher, you may have conflict in your own personal life and you could bring that to work. And so how does that impact you? And so really how you handle conflict is kind of something you need to start thinking about, especially with collaboration and teamwork. Conflict is real and dealing with it in a productive manner. And so you can kind of go ahead and use this analogy to handling a different conversation. How do you handle difficult conversation? And I use the seven dwarfs. Are you bashful? Are you grumpy? Are you dopey? Are you sleepy? Are you sneezy, which maybe you avoid it? Are you doc? Do you dissect the conversation and just look for facts? Or are you happy, where maybe you're just always happy about it, you're dealing with it in a positive manner? And so really, I want you to say which seven dwarfs are you? So personally for me, and then I'll have you think about it just a second. If I'm having a difficult conversation, I'm probably most likely in my personal life grumpy, for sure. Probably grumpy. I tell Ryan how it is, and it's not a very good way. But in my professional life, I may be dopey and I may make a joke sometimes, but also I may actually be sneezy and kind of avoid conflict and avoid difficult conversations because I don't like conflict, but I know that's not right. So what kind of dwarf are you? So now that you've kind of discussed how you handle conflict, there are definitely two wrong ways of handling it. The first is just really ignoring it and not talking about it. And as a teacher, especially if you work with secondary students, sometimes you'll hear this. I don't want to talk about it. I'm not going to talk to you. And you lose friendships. And that's not appropriate. You need to talk through the issues. And especially when you become a teacher, mentoring your kids to do that. Or the other is getting angry and just losing control. And both aren't good. You need to find a balance in between the two. And so this is just a professional book that I would encourage you, maybe this summer or if you have free time. This is a great book. It's one of the books that I've learned the most about. Stephanie made me read this book a few years ago. It really teaches you about the importance of having crucial conversations, but staying in a good space. And so I would encourage you to read it. And so really I want to just go through the conflict cycle and then we'll start getting you guys up and moving into a teamwork setting. So why do we mess up in conflict when we're with students or with teachers or maybe in our personal life? The first thing's our biology is we have that fight or flight. And so it really is about our brain and we lose the blood flow to our brain. The next is we could be surprised and we're caught off guard and maybe a student says a bad word and you're like shocked and you don't know how to respond in that moment. Confused. You may have to improvise. You maybe never have been approached that situation before. Or you say something, I don't always say something stupid. When I do, I keep talking to make it worse. Just you go and you go and you go, and you're making it worse and worse and worse. Sometimes you just need to know when to zip it. So the problem is when faced with conflict, we sometimes forget our goal because emotions take over. And that really is the crux of conflict, is letting the emotions get the best of you where you cannot actually think clearly on how you want to solve the problem. So especially in education, there are some common stories. It's not my fault, it's the student's fault. It's always the student's fault, it's the parent's fault. It's somebody else's fault, and there's nothing else I can do. That is not correct. When there is conflict and when there are issues in education, we really need to look internally on what can I do to help fix this problem? How can I solve it? So handled poorly, conflict can really impact our students. Conflict among the education team, either it's parents, teachers, staff members, student and teacher conflict, and really who suffers the most is students. So when you're in a team of people and if there is conflict, remember, who is it impacting? It's impacting your students, therefore we need to resolve the conflict immediately. So kind of here's some tips that Park Hill actually says for new teachers and new grads. Be humble. Nothing scarier than a new grad who thinks they know everything. You're going to be a new teacher. You're not going to know everything. That's okay. Own it. Don't act like you are the end all be all. Be kind. As we're in a people business, you got to be kind and work on a team and be willing to go the extra mile. Speak up. If you are wrong or you don't understand something, you may not know what a PLEP stands for. May not know what an IEP stands for, and you're going to know a lot of acronyms in education. Just ask a question. Don't be silent. Silent is not a good team member. You need to be able to effectively work and understand so you can work as a unit. Be self-aware of who you are, what strengths you have, and what you can bring to the team, and then offer to help. Even with the simple things, no job is too little for a teacher. We all can do stuff. And so I want you to type this in to your search engine right now. And then I want you to have a conversation. We actually read this article yesterday, and I want to know what your thoughts. So truly take this one seriously because I think it's really important. I think it's really pertinent to what professional studies is all about. So read this article. I'm going to pause it right now and then have a discussion over it. So hopefully we had a good conversation about there's two types of people, the people that do it and the people that don't do it. And I hope you're the doers. And that you found some truth to the article, and hopefully you're one of those people that will do something even if you aren't asked to do it sometimes, or if it's beneath you, or however you may feel. So this is the interview question that we're really going to talk about today. So tell me about a past experience of you working in a group of people. What was your role? How did you enhance the team, and where did you struggle? You're going to talk about this, and this has been an interview question in the capstone the last 3 years. Communication, collaboration is so huge in Park Hill that they want to know, what role do you play in a team? Are you always bossy? Are you always quiet? Do you not step up when you're asked to? So discuss this and think about it and tell me a past experience of you working in a team of people. What was your role? How did you enhance the team? And where did you struggle? A really big recap on types of team members, and especially in education. There's the irresponsible one. You guys have probably seen this in high school, so let you guys read through this. If you need to pause it, I'm just going to keep on going. The bossy team member has to take over. The reluctant team member, she does everything, but Big ideas team member, the enthusiastic one, the one that has all these great big ideas. The rude team member, shuts down ideas, sarcastic, overly critical. The oil and water, these two people do not get along. The busy mentor. The mentor is the